To power, let's start talking about people, power and politics. With about 50 days to go for US elections, any other debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump has been ruled out. We decode in whose favor it will actually play out. Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been quiet ever since fleeing her own country, but a recent audio leak with a fellow party member has sent shockwaves to Dhaka and the rest of the region. We tell you what it says. Now, questions over a second presidential debate have been put to rest. With about 50 days to go, American voters will not see Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on the same stage again. Former President Trump has refused to go for a second round.
Prize fighter loses a fight. You've seen a lot of fights, right? The first words out of that fighter's mouth is, I want a rematch. I want a rematch. And that's what she said, I want a rematch. Polls clearly show that I won the debate against Comrade Kamala Harris. Because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate.
Trump was addressing a rally for the very first time since the debate. He resumed from the battleground state of Arizona, where he pledged to end all taxes on overtime pay. However, much of his speech was targeted at his rival Harris and the debate. The Democratic nominee also resumed campaigning from a swing state, while in North Carolina, she continued to call for another debate.
2 nights ago, Donald Trump and I had our first debate. And I believe we owe it to the voters to have another debate.
While another debate doesn't seem to be on the cards, the candidates' itineraries show that each side understands how close the election could be.
You all watched the debate. You heard what he said in the debate. He has no plan to replace it.
And speaking of how close the polls will be, let's get you some numbers. We have some opinion polls coming in that were done post the debate. Now, Rasmussen Report's survey finds that 49% of respondents chose Trump, while 47% said that they would vote for Harris. Another 2% said they haven't decided yet, and 1% said some other party. It is important to note here that Libertarian Party, Green Party and Independents are also in the fray. As we were speaking of battleground states before, an Inside Advantage survey picked Michigan, where Donald Trump has a 1-point lead over Kamala Harris. In a same poll done before the debate, Harris was leading by 2 points in Michigan. Another poll is coming from Reuters Ipsos, where post the debate numbers seem to be in favor of Harris. She's leading Trump 47% to 42%. According to the pollster, the gap has widened after the September 10th debate. Similarly, the Times conducted a poll of 1,407 adults between September 10th and 11th, which shows that the race remaining close, with Harris on 46% and Trump on 45%. According to the poll, the voting intention of the people remain unchanged before and after the debate. The US presidential debate is still making waves, but not in a good way. Trump's comments on migrants eating the neighbors' cats and dogs may have been proven false by the authorities in Ohio, but migrants in the state are fearing for their safety now. Here are some of the reactions coming in.
Since Monday, after the tweet of the Senator Vance, the Asian community in Springfield are a little bit shocked and frustrated. And a lot of them are maybe talking about leaving Springfield. A lot of them are, there is so much fears in the community.
All these things that saying in the social media that we're eating dogs. In our culture, we don't eat dogs. That's ridiculous. And even we have local officers say that there's no evidence, and we see people are very aggressive against us in Springfield.
To get us some perspective on the opinion polls and more, Jonah Blank is joining us live from Washington, D.C. He was the foreign policy advisor to President Joe Biden and has advised Biden for 9 long years on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Mr. Blank, thank you so much for joining us here on WION again.
Thank you for having me.
Let me start by asking you, in case there was another debate, who would have it benefited, Trump or Harris?
Well, I think on the basis of what we saw on Tuesday, it would be almost certain to benefit Harris. Even Trump's own supporters, even his closest advisors, admit that Harris just cleaned the floor with them. Or it might be accurate to say he cleaned the floor with himself. He showed who he is, and it's not something the American people like. So I think Trump is quite wise not to want another debacle like he had on Tuesday.
Mr. Blank, your assessment goes to show why Donald Trump doesn't want a second round with Kamala Harris. Also, Mr. Blank, there was so much talk about the debate and how pivotal it's going to be for the US elections, especially for the undecided voters. But as numbers show, it didn't really move the needle when it comes to undecided voters. So now that we are not going to see a debate and both the nominees have hit the home run by, visiting now the battleground states, and with less than 50 days to go, where does that leave the undecided voters?
Yes, Harris clearly won the debate, but it's unclear whether it will really matter. The only debate that has really mattered in American politics recently was, of course, the one between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And that was very much the outlier. Typically, debates do not win elections. So will there be another debate? Well, Donald Trump has in the past said he wouldn't debate, he would debate, he wouldn't debate, he would debate. I think he won't, but I also think it doesn't really matter. This is going to be an enormously close election right down to the wire. Harris is up in some polls, down in others. It doesn't really matter because this is going to be a margin of error election no matter how it turns out.
All right, Mr. Blank, I'm going to ask you a very controversial question, rather, might seem weird as well. We are hearing a lot of conspiracy theories coming in from the US about the debate. One being Harris's earring was actually a wireless earphone. We're also hearing that Harris was handed the questions beforehand by the ABC moderators, which then makes the debate rigged. And the third one being a Trump supporter has just accused Harris and moderators of witchcraft. What are you making of these comments?
Sorry, not hearing any sound.
Right. Mr. Blank, can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
All right, great. I'll just quickly repeat my question. I'm asking about the conspiracy theories that we're hearing post the debate. One, of course, being Harris's earring was actually a wireless earphone. We're also hearing one Trump supporter just accused Harris and the ABC moderators that they are doing witchcraft, and then that the debate was rigged because the questions were handed over to Kamala Harris before the debate. What are you making of these comments?
They're absurd. I hadn't even heard several of these. The questions were as obvious as they could possibly have been. You know, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Things very, very simple. And the idea that there was any kind of shenanigans is just Trump camp trying to excuse the fact that he had a terrible performance. But let's take a step back for a minute. Trump said a lot of really crazy things about immigrants eating cats and all sorts of things like that. It's easy to laugh at them because they're laughable. But as your report accurately showed, these weird conspiracies have real harm for real people. There are about 20,000 recent legal immigrants in Springfield, and they've come under terrible discrimination and often physical intimidation on the basis of these wild, crazy, and wrong ideas that Trump has been putting out.
Right. Mr. Blank, before I let you go very quickly, don't you think it's fair for Donald Trump or even an average American voter to ask Kamala Harris that you were sitting in the White House for 4 long years, why haven't you brought the changes that you're talking about now?
Sure, that's a totally fair question. She got a number of tough, fair questions, and though the American people does deserve to hear from her, and they did.
All All right, Mr. Blank, thank you so much for joining us here on WION.
Thank you.
Barely months after South Africa's president managed to form a coalition, the first signs of tensions and rift in the unity government are beginning to show. Cyril Ramaphosa has officially signed the Divisive Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill into law. This despite key ally, the Democratic Alliance, opposing certain provisions of the bill. So much so that the party leaders of DA threatened to pull back from the government of national unity if the president signed the bill into law. In an address, Ramaphosa said that the bill will only be fully implemented after 3 months in order to give time for further consultations. However, the South African president also said that he is determined to implement the bill if no proper solutions are found to the stalemate within 3 months.
In the last few days, in fact, in the very last few hours and the last few minutes, parties to the government of national unity, as well as parties outside the government of national unity, have expressed their wishes to further engage each other on some of the sections of the bill that deal with the issues, particularly of access, admission, and language.
Following the developments, the Democratic Alliance Party has now instructed its lawyers to prepare for court action on both the process leading to the adoption of the Mela bill, as well as its substance on constitutional grounds. The party believes Ramaphosa's approach is contrary to the spirit of the coalition that emphasizes sufficient consensus on divisive issues. The ANC party allies say that the school reserves the right to determine their language policies, emphasizing the right of Africans to opt for an education in their mother tongue. The backlash on the new legislation have triggered a debate around racial integration among parties and people of South Africa. It has been more than a month since Sheikh Hasina was ousted as the Bangladeshi Prime Minister and forced to leave the country. Now, a purported leaked phone call allegedly involving her has sparked controversy across social media and the country's political arena. According to the Dhaka Tribune, the 10-minute-long conversation reportedly took place between Hasina and a man named Tanveer, a leader of a party in the United States. The audio of the conversation, which has not yet been officially authenticated, has gone viral. The discussion offers unique insights into the challenges Hasina faces while in exile and her connection with loyal Awami League leaders abroad. The Dhaka Tribune reports that in the call, Tanveer briefs Hasina about the difficulties being faced by party leaders, with many forced to stay outside their constituencies due to legal cases. Hasina acknowledges the legal challenges and explains that she herself is implicated in 113 cases. She goes on to warn Tanveer about the potential legal troubles if he returns to Bangladesh. Hasina told Tanveer that there were quote-unquote murder cases against everyone. Hasina also talked about Bangladesh's deteriorating economic conditions, claiming the country is slipping back into poverty. During the alleged call, she accused the current regime of looting banks and shutting down essential services. She commented on widespread allegations of corruption, remarking that there is little she can do if, quote-unquote, people remain foolish. Hasina also reacted to the rumor that she had been secretly transported from the Indian town of Ghaziabad to Delhi by helicopter. Dismissing the claim as absurd, Hasina maintained that she remains close enough to return to Bangladesh if needed. She reportedly said, and I'm quoting, "They are saying some strange things. I'm very close to the country. I'm not far away. I'm close enough to return quickly." Giving a glimpse into Awami League's political strategy, Tanveer mentioned ongoing rallies in the US aimed at rallying support for the party. While talking about the upcoming US elections, Hasina purportedly said that it doesn't matter who wins the US presidency, as long as they maintain political connections that could benefit the Awami League in the future. This phone call leak has prompted widespread speculation about Hasina's influence, even while in exile, and the ongoing efforts of her supporters abroad. Let's shift focus now. Sri Lanka's election on September 21st is being viewed as a referendum on the economic reforms, just ahead of the first poll since the country's economic meltdown in 2022. Opposition leader and presidential candidate Sajith Premadasa has warned that he will heavily tax the rich if he wins in the upcoming contest. Premadasa has vowed to improve the living conditions for the poor and easing the tax burdens on the people of Sri Lanka by ensuring equitable wealth distribution. The Sri Lankan opposition leader has also revealed that he has commenced negotiations with the International Monetary Fund on the 2022 economic reform package. He added that the government has embarked on the more humanistic approach to make these reforms. Now, correspondent Dasunya Tharda has more on this from Colombo.
The Cabinet of Ministers giving the green light to widen the country's tax brackets while also lifting the country's vehicle import ban in February next year comes a mere week before the country's all-important presidential election, which brings to question as to whether this is purely an election tactic to lure in voters to vote in favor of President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who appears to be one of the three top runners. Reporting for WION World is One from Colombo, I'm Dasunya Thalda.
Now, an important story coming in from India. The upcoming assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir are signalling a radical change in the politics of the region, indicating a major ideological change in the Kashmir Valley. Our special correspondent Idris Lone gets you a report.
Separatists and their family members are campaigning for the upcoming assembly elections in Kashmir Valley. And some of them are drawing huge crowds at their rallies. One of them is Ejaz Ahmed Guru, who is contesting as an independent candidate from the Sopore constituency after his brother Afzal Guru was executed 11 years ago for his role in the parliament attack. Ejaz took retirement as an animal husbandry department employee in 2014 and is now working as a contractor. Underscoring his desire to bring about meaningful change, Ejaz says the region has been neglected by previous leaders.
The reason to enter politics is that we have gone through a lot in the last 35 years. I cannot tell you anything in 2 minutes. It's a story of 3 decades.
Another separatist candidate is jailed cleric Sarjan Ahmed Wage. Known as Sarjan Barkati, he became a prominent face of protest rallies in the valley after the killing of Hizbul Mujahideen commander Burhan Wani. Sarjan, who is currently in jail, is contesting from Birwa and Gandarbal assembly seats. In Gandarbal, he is up against former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, Umar Abdullah.
I believe in the democracy of India and I have full faith in it, and that's why I am here. We are going to Birwa as well. Democracy means where people are powerful. Sarjan Saab has equal right to fight elections as someone outside the jail has. If he wants to come to this side of the fence, he should be allowed to do so. I'm hoping that people will support him. He's a political prisoner and the ECI has made it very easy for people. His daughter and son are living like orphans and no one has gone to help them.
Other separatist leaders in the electoral fray include Syed Salim Gilani of the PDP, former JKNPP head Javed Habi, the son of former Hurriyat leader Ghulam Mohammad Habi. Aga Muntazir Mehdi, a prominent Shia cleric and the son of Hurriyat executive member, and Altaf Ahmed Bhatt, a social worker from South Kashmir's Pulwama and the brother of jailed leader Bashir Ahmed Bhatt, among many others.
The upcoming assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir is throwing new surprises every passing day, with separatists and their family members joining the electoral process and some of them actually gaining ground. Is to be seen whether these separatist leaders as well as their family members would be successful in the electoral politics. With video journalist Feroz, Idris Lone for WION World is One.
Staying with India, in a massive relief for Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, the Supreme Court granted him bail earlier today. A 2-judge bench passed the order, noting that the trial is unlikely to conclude in the near future. Just a short while back, Kejriwal walked a free man. Braving rains in the national capital, thousands of party workers and supporters gathered to welcome the Aam Aadmi Party chief. Kejriwal was seen addressing the crowd shortly after leaving prison.
भगवान से प्रार्थना करता हूं, ऐसे ही भगवान मुझे रास्ता दिखाता रहे, मैं देश की सेवा करता रहूं और ये जितनी राष्ट्र विरोधी ताकतें हैं जो देश के विकास को रोक रही हैं, जो देश को बांटने का काम कर रही हैं, जो देश को अंदर से कमजोर करने का काम कर रही हैं, जिंदगी भर में इनके खिलाफ लड़ा हूं, आगे भी ऐसे ही लड़ता रहूंगा।
The two-justice bench granted bail to the Chief Minister after reserving the verdict of September 5th. While granting bail, Justice Surya Kant observed, and I'm quoting, that prolonged incarceration amounts to unjust deprivation of liberty. Justice Ujjwal Bhuyan, in a separate judgment, came down upon the probe agency CBI, saying Kejriwal's arrest by the agency was only to frustrate his release from prison after he secured bail in another case being investigated by the Enforcement Directorate. The case against Kejriwal stems from alleged irregularities in the framing of the now scrapped Delhi excise policy case. The Enforcement Directorate arrested Kejriwal on March 21st this year in connection with a money laundering probe related to the policy. He was later given interim bail in the ED case. However, he continued to remain in jail as the CBI arrested him on June 26th. Let's now take a look at what else is making news in the world of elections and politics. There seems to be no end to political drama in Venezuela. Weeks after a contested election on July 28th, in which incumbent President Nicolas Maduro claimed victory, the United States has sanctioned 16 officials said to be closely aligned with Maduro. According to a U.S. Treasury statement, Washington has sanctioned key officials involved in Maduro's fraudulent and illegitimate claims of victory and his brutal crackdown on free expression following the election. In Senegal, President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has dissolved the opposition-led parliament, making way for early legislative elections to roll out policies for the rest of his term. In an evening address on state television, Faye said legislative elections will be held on November 17th. The move by the president comes after the promises by Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko to dissolve National Assembly and launch a wide-ranging probe into government corruption. The action is, however, hampered by the lack of a majority in the parliament. And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta. I will see you on Monday. Goodbye.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
This week on the West Asia Post, Iran's missile supply to Russia stirs fear. Tehran denies the charge. West slaps new sanctions. We decode the shifting dynamics in geopolitics. Israeli strikes pound Gaza without mercy. Safe zones no longer safe. The IDF targets southern Gaza, hitting designated shelters. In the West Bank, tensions explode. Israeli raids push the region toward chaos. EU warns West Bank becoming a new Gaza. Jordan's moderate Islamist opposition makes huge gains in parliamentary election.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at yowon.com.
As Diljit Dosanjh announces his icon. Take a look at all the bands that have made a huge comeback. And find out some lesser-known facts about the Australian Rose, Nicole Kidman. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION E-Club.
This week on Tech It Out, we bring you some interesting gadgets from the recently concluded tech show IFA 2024. We show you a robot that can fly like Iron Man. And we explain why the high-speed transportation system Hyperloop is back in headlines. This and more on WION World is One at these times.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Vielleicht nur